Perhaps we could take a poll this morning, separating ourselves into just two different groups, using just two simple defining statements as to which group in which you might belong. In the one group, we would have those who would say, I live in a world of plenty, a world of abundance. That would be one group. The other group would be, I live in a world of scarcity, a world of risk. I believe that which statement fits you is critical and life-forming in all kinds of interesting ways. And how you would answer those two questions, a world of plenty or a world of scarcity, defines your worldview and how you would measure yourselves, folks around you, and your possibilities. My parents were born in 1908 and 1910, and certainly they were children of the Depression, and that forever shaped their lives in many significant ways. My mother's father left a rather safe job to join his brother in selling cars, on commission, I would assume, just before the fall of 1929. When the markets fell in fall of 1929, not too many people were buying new cars. He lost his job, and the family lost their modest savings. And my grandfather was never quite the same again, never quite recovered from that severe financial blow. Both of my parents grew up in a world of real scarcity. Watchwords for that generation were things like waste not, want not, never buy on credit, do without. A penny saved is a penny earned. And for my folks, that scarcity mentality never left, even though at the latter part of their lives they were pretty well off. If you believe that you live in a world of scarcity, letting go of anything you have of value doesn't make any sense at all. Giving something away will diminish what you have and your wealth and your future. So you need to hold on to what you have by any means possible, for it's a finite amount. Don't waste it. Against that background, we have this story of Elijah. Although in many places the Holy Land is referred to as a land flowing with milk and honey, the truth is, it was and still is a pretty arid place. Not like the lush fields around us here that we have come to take for granted. Drought and hard times were constant companions in that Holy Land. And so in the midst of another drought, this widow and her son were on the bitter edge. Elijah is told to go to Zarephath in modern-day Lebanon today and to live with this widow and that she will feed him. That's the story. Elijah, go there and she'll take care of you. He meets her on the edge of town as she is gathering some sticks, and he asks for water for a weary traveler. When she begins to respond to that, he adds to his request, now asking for both water and a morsel of bread. Well, this widow is barely hanging on, with only a handful of meal and a little bit of oil to her name. In fact, she says she is preparing what she thinks is going to be her very last meal. That's what the sticks are for the fire, for her very last meal. She only has enough for this one last meal, enough for herself and her son, and then it's all gone, and they're going to die. Well, Elijah says, go ahead, make that meal that you think is your last final meal, but also share a little of what you have with me as well. He assures her that in her sharing there will be enough for all of them, and somehow the supply will continue to be there. Well, amazingly, Elijah stays with the widow and her son for a number of days. They eat modestly, to be sure, but there continues to be enough for the three of them. That's a great story of faith, is it not? The widow believed that she lived in this world of scarcity for sure, and in many significant ways that was exactly her reality. It was difficult, or not really impossible, for women to own property in those days. The only job she could find would be a menial one at best. Eking out this subsistent existence would be a great accomplishment under good conditions, but this was a time of drought. If you live in a world of scarcity, hanging on to everything you have of any value would be the prudent thing to do. And so her initial reluctance to provide hospitality to this stranger is certainly understandable. But for whatever reason, she was moved from scarcity to risk, to hospitality. This last meal would include a stranger at the table as well as her son. And somehow there would be enough. And there was. She shared, and she lived on. This sharing, this offering of hospitality opened new doors for her. Her reward was a continuing life long after she thought she had prepared for her last meal. Well, we live in far more prosperous times in a far more prosperous country. Our grandparents, your grandparents, would be in disbelief if they would visit your home and see the way in which you live. They could not believe it. If you travel to almost any other place in this world, you quickly learn that this indeed is the place of choice in which to live, given the natural blessings and resources of this country and the opportunities that we take for granted. And that is why it is so amazing how often we who live here slip over into a mindset of scarcity and not a mindset of abundance. I know all the common wisdom of saving and being prudent and preparing for a rainy day that someday is right around the corner. But the overwhelming witness of the Scriptures is that God is a providing and a generous God. You find that over and over. That life is good and inviting. That helping the neighbor, in fact, enriches your life, not diminishes your life. And that what you have is more than you could have thought of. And you are a blessed person. Most of us who are part of the United Church of Christ in this congregation and elsewhere have moved from becoming poor immigrants, just lucky to be here, and menial laborers who were scraping together our lives in log cabins and what else, barely making it financially, to now we are well-placed middle-class people, maybe upper-middle-class people. We live in good housing with a white picket fence if you want one. We drive decent cars. We provide for our families. We are educated and wise and motivated and ambitious and smart. We're certainly above average. And yet the ugly prospect of scarcity is always in the shadows. I have a theory about this. I think that although we have so much, it is easy for us to talk the poor talk, to emphasize what we don't have, at least we don't have yet, and to succumb to this scarcity mindset. I think that's easy for us to do, because to embrace the mindset of abundance would mean that we would be more accountable for our abundance. We would be more accountable for the abundance. To recognize our much would mean answering to God and to ourselves and to others about the stewardship of the much that we have. You see, we can pretend we're off the hook if we are unable to respond to the need and perceived opportunities because we're too poor, because we don't have much. That we would help out, we could make a difference if we had more. And certainly there are some others who are better off than we are, better able to respond. And we could say, don't think of us, think of them. They're better than we are. And so we slip over into talking the poor talk, perpetuating this illusion of scarcity so we can better hang on to what we have, close our ears and our eyes to the places that we could help if we wanted to. So that's my theory. If we were to admit how able we are, how blessed we are, how abundant our lives are, then we might run out of excuses to say that, well, let's let George do it, hoping there are enough Georges around, other Georges, not us, to meet whatever needs there may be. We're soon going to gather about the Lord's table here to share this simple sharing of a bit of bread and a bit of the fruit of the vine. And friends, there's no magic here. These are common elements that remain common, even as they represent to us the very life of Jesus, the one who came to save us and to save our world. All that is here. The life of Jesus was a life of extravagant love for all, for friends who were like him, for strangers, and even for those who sought to take his own life. If we choose a mindset that we live a life of abundance, a life of plenty, then friends, the well is never dry, and the blessings are replenished as they are shared. And the love is never used up, but the love is always renewed for use on another day. So our challenge is to live our way into our abundance, to accept we are blessed, to do that for the sake of Christ and for the sake of all of God's children. We're able. We are. We can give and share, offer hospitality, bless those around us. And we do it. And we can do more. Amen.